pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, roll call, please. Oh, that's me. Yeah. Latrell.
Here.
Erie.
Here.
Deb.
Here.
Kelly. Here. Mindy, I'm here.
And since there's 5 out of 5, then that definitely establishes a quorum. We each have a copy of the agenda for this evening, and it is legally posted. Are there any changes or revisions to the agenda? Do we need a motion on that to approve?
You need somebody needs to approve it.
It says approval of agenda, so I'll take a motion to approve agenda.
I'll motion to move the agenda.
Second. Okay, we have a motion in 2 seconds to approve the agenda. All in favor? Aye. None opposed. Are there any comments, questions from community and audience members? Okay. And then approval of the minutes from March 4th, which were delayed during our May 26th meeting and May 26th minutes. And Mindy had sent them previously. If you just need to quickly scan them. Haven't read them, but I haven't read the any questions or corrections either on March 4th or May 26th committee minutes? And I'll hear a motion to approve minutes from March 4th and May 26th.
Ready to approve.
Second. I have a motion second to approve the minutes from March 4th and May 26th. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? So old business. Very old business. So after our last meeting on May 26th, planning and zoning met on May 28th, and we presented to them the version of the night sky ordinance at that time. And just as we were closing our meeting on May 26th, we received written comments through Santos from the resort. And so the Planning and Zoning Commission tabled further action on our recommendation to them pending how we would modify the ordinance based on comments from the resort, since no one had seen anything, everything was what if this, what if that. So we were held pending by planning and zoning, and they have we're on their agenda, I believe, for June 4th, which is Thursday of this week at 3 o'clock. So the purpose of our meeting here now is to review and discuss the recommendations from Angel Fire Resort, which things that we can incorporate or modify our proposed ordinance, and then be in consensus and vote that this is the version we want planning and zoning to recommend to council. So Latrell and I did some brainstorming, and that's what Ileana just handed us. It's the warm copy of changes we felt we could merge with the recommendations that we received after the last minute from the resort. So you want to kind of say in general what our thoughts were, and then maybe go through some of the specifics?
Well, my general thoughts, which are the only ones I can really tell you anything, was at first reading, it appeared that the resort was requesting all of its amenities, its property, everything be exempt. And so that made it kind of a hard study. And so I think we talked about a few changes, not many. But the council has approved what I consider to be the difficult parts, those being the fact that we made the changes to the Kelvin, which I think everybody will like, that we made that change from retrofitting with an option to turn off your lights at 10 o'clock, so you don't have to do that.
Excuse me, the council has not seen that version yet.
Okay, they haven't seen it, but anyway.
But planning and zoning has.
Right, and I apologize.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's what's coming to council and seem to be very acceptable, I think, to all parties, whether it's an Airbnb person or a business person, certainly not owners. But the resort's recommendation is a 180 degrees from what we've been talking about. And so I think we just need to address what changes that we think we can make and then let it go from there. Back to you guys at planning and zoning.
Do you want to read them specifically and see if there's any other
I've
discussion?
added the definitions, because we generically use the word resort. I mean, it's used for everything, and so I added the definitions, that the resort is an Angel Fire Resort Operations LLC, New Mexico limited liability company, and any other affiliates or entities, operating with the Village of Angel Fire.
This little typo, it says.
Yeah,
It
it's
says
as a
company
G and there's some law.
operating. Yeah.
And then, we listed the Angel Fire Resort amenities because in the reorganization plan in 1995, it defines what those amenities are. And so we included those. And also, obviously, there have been some amenities added since 1995. And so we left in there room for any legally installed and operating as the enactment date of the chapter. The rest of those definitions, I don't think we had any.
Question on the definitions.
Mm-hmm.
The phrase in Angel Fire Resort that says in any affiliated entities, does that include properties under their management?
Yes,
Okay,
yes. They have a number of other entities that they operate. Number one, when you're doing something like this, you need to know who they are. What is the resort? Because it's used generically throughout this. Then we made, I think, changes where necessitated to clarify privately owned, commercial, and resort-owned sources of lighting. And that's why we put the definition in there. We also made a change to include resort amenities. And so there's not a whole lot of changes in here.
no, there's, owned being managed also, or you could keep bringing them managed properties back. Would that include it, or you had to rephrase?
Well, we talked about that, Gary, and decided that putting managed, owned, leased, all of that in there, that because we have the parties, and because we know what they own. And if they own a property that is an Airbnb, then it is in the residential district. It is not, it's not a commercial property. And so we've got residential in the original ordinance, and that refers to the Angel Fire Resort, any of their Airbnbs that they may have.
Would there have to be a subcategory for privately owned, but resort managed? Or go with that?
Well, I tried to take her there, so she was a little resistant, and I understand. If they have an Airbnb and it is in a residential district, then it is in fact covered by this
With this
ordinance.
statement.
And then same thing with commercially owned,
Yeah,
resort, commercially owned properties, this little strip here, that little strip there, whatever. Then they, fall under non-residential and resort, meaning they have the same rules.
I understand that. I just want to make sure the resort understands.
yeah, well,
Yeah, and that was one thing very surprising. And I don't know if we're saving the resort and or the village, a lot of legal consternation, but just taking their wording verbatim and they're exempt plus all of what they own, lead, manage, whatever being exempt, and you could have a commercial strip here with 3 or 4 little stores in it, owned, managed by the resort that's exempt, and then next door to them, a little strip center that's owned by someone else and they're not exempt. So that's almost like illegal. So I just don't see how that would have passed, the village's legal counsel.
So if I were a condo owner that's being managed by the resort, but I'm the owner, is that covered in this too?
So that would be, then
What would
it's,
that come under?
regardless of the owner, it's a condo. If we look at the lighting zones,
You know,
so in the lighting zones, big paragraph E, the N, L, NZ, and all that were designations that Dark Sky International prefers,
see.
lighting zone 0, lighting
Oh,
zone
okay.
1, 2, 3. But I cross-referenced R1, R2, R3, C1, C2, which are designated by the village. And so when we say that lighting zone 1 has to do this, then you go back and say, oh, that's R1, R2, R3.
so no need to, it would be redundant to say it
Correct.
twice then? Can't be good. All right.
So that's why we separated out resort amenities, which were defined in 1995, plus a couple of new ones. So that their functions like, and at one time we had said night skiing was exempt. But then we said, well, if night skiing is exempt, what about the golf course? What about Montgomery Lake? So we grouped things like night skiing into one category called the amenities. And then, so we kind of have, like the village has 3 different governing bodies. This ordinance addresses 3 different kinds of lighting, privately owned, commercial, and resort, or sorry, municipal, private, and resort owned.
Okay.
And generally, resort owned is lumped in with non-residential or commercial. And so if they have residential property, it's residential. You want, I took over.
Cut in.
well, no, that's okay. Big capital paragraph C talks about exemptions. And then there's temporary lighting that's used for law enforcement and EMS, worker safety, Angel Fire Resort and Angel Fire Resort amenities, maintenance and repairs, which was one of their concerns. What if we had to go out in the middle of the night, to fix something on the golf course or fix something? That's included, it's under temporary lighting. And so there is nothing in here that exempts resort properties from complying with this and most of this you all had already maybe had approved and was presented to planning and zoning. But we didn't have on that day the resort changes. So
We did a couple of other real small little changes, under big C exemptions, little b, and then Roman numeral tiny 4. We struck the word permitted festivals, celebrations, or other public events. in case, because what brought that to my mind anyway, was the resort was asking for exemptions for weddings and special fruit fries or whatever. And then I thought, well, if they're exempt, then what about Mr. and Mrs. Jones that have a wedding venue here? That would be two sets of rules. And then we had to struggle with a public event versus a private event, because a wedding is more of a private event than a public event. So I didn't highlight it in red, I was in a hurry. So there we struck the word permitted festivals. So we just make it festival celebrations or other special events, but it's still under the umbrella of temporary. So if I want to have a wedding reception at XYZ restaurant, then the extra lighting and all the gizmos that go with the wedding reception are permitted temporarily, turned off 1 hour after everybody's gone. Whether it's a private event or public event, and then that puts the resort and any private owners on even keel. The other thing that Latrell was a little concerned with is subparagraph C. We had lighting operated by a public school for extracurricular activities, but the what's the word I'm looking for?
Charter school?
The charter school is not a public school, correct? Or-
It is in New Mexico. They're public, they're just.
So we just put in the word accredited so that someone just can't say, oh, I'm a public school. So that's just a word.
Sure.
We can go back to public schools. If the charter school is a public school, we can keep public in there as well. And I don't know, I suppose all public schools are accredited, but they may not be. So, and I think then, yeah. And so then we did strike night skiing lighting at Angel Fires Resort is exempt because now night skiing is part of the overall description of amenities. And then from there on, again in G.
If I could just, quick question, I get where you're going with that, with the part of amenities, but the exemption that exists is for temporary lighting. Would the night skiing permanently installed light fixtures qualify as temporary lighting, or
No,
How
so
are you-
there is taken out of temporary lighting, correct?
well, under exemptions, the only place where Angel Fire Resort and Angel Fire Resort amenities is mentioned is under subsection B, temporary lighting used for. So I'm not sure that the permanently installed ski hill lights would qualify as temporary.
No, but they qualify under general provisions. What's the word? Lawfully installed or legally non-conforming fixtures. Because
Turned off by, in anyone, they're not night skiing pass.
Generally,
really all of the amenities that are up and running now, the lake, the ski hill, the golf course, they all have some kind of lighting.
Mhm.
And, they would currently be considered, where's the word again? Legal, non-conforming fixtures. Right?
I don't know that the ski lighting though can be conforming, like with the pole height.
I mean, ever conforming.
right, I think that's the point, is I don't know that those lights are
Never
ever,
gonna.
that's, I think,
Right, but if they're
I think that's
legal,
what it is.
non-conforming lights, like your house, my house, we can have them on, shut off at 10.
I think the resort will like having that line in there, and if it doesn't really change anything for us, then we can have it in.
I understand the intent here of where you're going, and just,
But it needs to be
You
clearer.
have
Well-
a suggestion?
I guess, what good does striking the night skiing do for anyone? What good does that, like, what do you get by striking through? Hold on, let me make sure and read it. E,
It looks pretty good as is.
why strike through that? Isn't it clarifying to leave it?
Sure, to me, it was redundant, but, okay, so it's redundant, who cares? And it's not temporary. Right, okay.
Understood, because my concern was, since it wasn't temporary, then technically, and
Yep.
please, not an attorney, but the way I was reading this, since this is not temporary, then those additional lighting standards for specific uses, I suspect that it would fall under outdoor sports and recreation, which has
some of the specific language in here about sports lighting that I don't know will ever actually be applicable. Like none of us know what it takes to put lights on a ski hill. That's a very specific thing to do.
Yeah, it's
So if they don't qualify under the temporary exemption, then I think they should technically be under subsection B outdoor sports and recreation fitting if you do intend to strike that one line
The
through there.
big I that then describes the criteria for outdoor sports and recreation would be for new build. So like if they decide to have night golf or night pickleball or something like that, then that's where that paragraph comes into.
Well, but keep
But
in.
yeah, I'm not opposed to leaving in the night skiing.
Keep in mind, there is a new lift going in, and it may be that there are new light poles going to be
Right.
put in to accommodate new, I don't know that, I'm just surmising.
I've been there and there is.
Right, so we don't wanna make that harder than we have to, so unless we're getting something for getting rid of
No,
subsection paragraph E, I think leaving that as an exemption
sure.
is just cleaner. But
And I had heard that they want to open up the run underneath the new chair for night skiing.
right, so there will be new lights going in that don't necessarily fit in the outdoor sports and recreation lighting, because that section is really meant for softball, soccer fields. Night skiing is its own thing with its own height requirements and lighting. I don't know how many of you have night skied. It's a very tricky thing to not get the shadows in bad places. So, I think it would probably just be cleaner to leave that sentence E in
Okay.
there as opposed to striking it, unless
I'm good with that.
Does that require a motion?
I think I was hung up.
No, no, I mean, we're gonna talk about everything in that one motion at the end.
I think what you've done with the temporary is good, because my reading matches Latrell's pretty well. There were some things that just the simple night skiing exemption didn't capture.
Right,
They have some maintenance buildings, they have some things that as they're running water lines up the mountain to get snowmaking set for the year, as they're doing snowplow, there's some things that they have to do that don't exist except on another ski hill somewhere else. And so it's gonna be very difficult for us to capture them all.
Okay.
So I think what you've done with the temporary lighting, it addresses the one concern. I think if subsection E comes back, then that would be helpful. And I agree with Latrell's reading as well, that it would be very challenging for us to grant the totality of the exemption they were asking for without running afoul of every other commercial entity, restaurant, property manager in town. That would put us in a bind.
so did anyone else have red line recommendations that we wanted to consider modifying here? You said we have no there?
Yeah, I think it was more inclusive now, but in the definitions,
Okay.
so.
Gary?
No, you cleared everything up, all my concerns.
I think because we've met with planning and zoning twice now, these changes will be easily understood rather than trying to describe a ordinance could be very confusing. I don't know.
But for the council, this format and stuff, where we're aiming towards dark sky recognition is totally new to them. So once, planning and zoning has a consensus, what they want to recommend to council, then we would definitely get it in their packets ASAP, correct?
Right.
So they would have time, because a lot of things are different. And then especially the side-by-side comparison helps draw out stuff. Because Angel Fire's legal counsel, said, you know, take the section for definitions, put it where it belongs, take the section for signage, put it where it belongs. So just the format of the jigsaw puzzle is different. And most of the, changes recommended by Dark Sky International are, actually easing some of the restrictions. And then Deb, when you were, Mindy, I see the eyes in the back of my head. When you were going through line by line, what other things concerned you?
Honestly, most of the stuff that and the recommendations from the resort, I felt like were pretty all encompassing, like y'all said. But I do think that this does a good job of doing the things that are actually necessary for them to operate as a business versus exempting everything. I was just looking to make sure we did raise the Kelvins to 2,700.
I do have a question. I said I was satisfied, but there was one thing still missing that, or maybe I didn't listen. It had to do with the single lights above the door on the either or.
That's our next topic. I was getting this settled. If we're all in agreement with the changes we want to add based on resort, recommendations.
Yeah, I think this is great.
And then Jake, do you think that this addresses the resort's concerns?
I think substantively it does. I think the spirit of what you're doing there, trying to make sure that all commercial buildings, residential buildings are being treated under the same standard is the fairest way to do this. May they come back and say, okay, you gave us some of the things we asked for, but not all of the others, but then it's ultimately up to you guys to decide what recommendations go forward to council. I will say, as has been clearly stated, it would be very difficult for us to give one commercial entity or Airbnb host an exemption and not others. That would put us in legal jeopardy, I suspect. So not having sent the resort request to legal counsel, they're coming here first. It may be that eventually when this does go to legal counsel, more of that could be entertained, but I think you guys are on the right path as far as that goes now. So.
Yeah, well,
Shelley, I do have one.
yeah.
The strobe lights on the golf course in the little pond area, are they 2,700? Don't they go all night long?
I think they're for blinking.
They asked for them to be exempt and we have not exempted those.
Okay.
And so under prohibited lighting,
Right.
the blinking, strobing, moving, rotating, floodlights, spotlights. So if that's what they're using for their wildlife mitigation, it's prohibited.
No matter what, if it's 2,700 Kelvin, we'll use it. No, okay.
Is it blinking? Is it strobing?
It's strobes, it's
That would be
strobes.
shielded, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's my opinion. Do you think we need to modify it?
But
Do you think that, do they still do that? Have the lights down by the pond to get rid of the geese? Is that-
sorry, I think.
I have not seen them.
Geese down there in the middle of.
They need to run all. That's good.
I thought I saw them like 1 or 2 years ago, but it never worked, so I haven't seen it. I don't think I saw it
I
last
get
year.
used to it.
Yeah.
So,
I don't stand that late.
and if an exemption is gonna be made for blinking, strobing, moving, rotating lights or excessively distracting for the purpose of getting rid of wildlife,
Yeah,
that doesn't match the persona of Angel Fire.
well, here's a good question. You live near that spot?
No, I'm not.
Does anyone
That's my.
Yeah, I have a friend who lives right
have,
across.
when
from
you
nine.
pass by it, do you see geese there while the strobe lights are on?
Yes, they not,
So they don't work.
yeah.
So any other discussion on things related to resort comments?
I was gonna say, if you were going to give, let's say hypothetically, we'll take the resort out of it for the moment. If you were gonna give the Village of Angel Fire Department an exemption to say, they want to use strobing lights to keep the elk from eating the grass. Well, couldn't every owner in Angel Fire make that same exemption claim? And in general, strobe lights are, I think of all of the various ordinances I've read from, they all get rid of the strobe lights for a very specific reason. They're
Dangerous for
Right.
anyone with seizures.
Yeah, migraine seizures.
My wildlife likes it dark.
That's when they come in, not playing. You just set out a whole bunch of tornadoes. Then let's move on. Jake, would you let me know about or let the referee know about your conversation?
So I had a conversation with the mayor. There was one specific chapter that the mayor and I spent a lot of time with before council voted to move forward with this. And he obviously hadn't seen the work that you guys have been doing. I've been out for several weeks. So I went and sat down with him specifically as it related to subsection H, residential use lighting standards. And the problem that we have here is the standard that we were using was the Breckenridge standard. I guess maybe that's not the half of it. So the Breckenridge standard was you get 6 lights. So this is for single family residential, predominantly for the new builds. You get 6 lights to start, and then you get 2 additional lights for every ingress egress. Okay. The new standard is 6 lights to start, 2 lights for your primary entrance, and 1 light for any, what does it call it, auxiliary entrances? I forget the exact,
So,
um, secondary entrances, yes. So effectively, that brings down the total number of lights, which also brings down the total lumens. The problem that the mayor has with this, and I'll state his case as best I can, and he's not the only one that had this. Many of the homes that he built and many of the other custom builders, we have large outdoor kitchens, entertaining areas, large decks, essentially. You see the monoslope roof. And so in general, what is done is you have can lights in that roof shining down on your entertaining areas. And the reason that we got the notice to proceed vote was we went through all of the recent builds that he had done, and the 6+2 worked. It functioned with every new build that he has done recently. And you all have seen several of his homes. There's lots of multi-story, lots of multiple decks. You know, it's not just one deck off the front. There may be a deck off the primary bedroom and another deck off the secondary bedroom. And so all of those decks generally have a door. And so that made it easy for him to scale up and down. And so this new 6+1 and/or however you read through this curtails it back down now to where his concern is those outdoor entertaining spaces are not going to have enough light.
Can we specify?
if I can add in what went wrong, when we kept mimicking Breckenridge's 6+2, and then we approached Dark Sky International and said, well, Breckenridge is Dark Sky recognized. And we copied it verbatim from their 6+2. They said in the paragraph above, there's and lumens per acre or foot candles per property line. And they designate zone 1. You can have your photometric plan could not have more than 1 foot candle at the property line. Medium zone, half a foot candle, low zone, 2/10 of a foot candle. So we overlooked the and part, and maybe intentionally, because with the staffing and the abilities of Angel Fire, we can't go out and measure foot candles at property lines. So we said, oh, we'll just pick this part. So that's why, even though we copied Breckenridge thinking that it would satisfy Dark Sky International, we didn't have the whole story. So that's why there's a disconnect with what we thought was wonderful. And now turns out for Dark Sky International is not, because they're recommending only 1 light per every secondary.
Well, and what they've given us is even more strict than that, because if you go down below, so I'm at section H, little b, and then II. So you have total outdoor lumens to not exceed, which as we've talked about, we're not going to be measuring at the property line, never exceeding 12,000 lumens, which is down from, I think, 16.5 of our initial draft. Then you have the subsection 1, 2 fixtures per, yada, yada, yada. Turn to the next page, subsection 2, homes larger than 4,000 square feet shall not exceed a total of 12 fixtures, ever. So it doesn't matter if it's 14,000 square feet or 4,500 square feet. So what we had before was something that scaled up and down. And now what we have is something with a hard cap on it.
Right.
And so we've hit this hard cap. So Shelley and I have a call on Thursday. I'm sorry, Rick Uding, the gentleman who helped draft this from Dark Sky, to go back through this, because Shelley and I, before we found the Breckenridge fix, as I will call it, there was actually some consideration for should we have a section that specifically addresses outdoor task lighting? Because that's basically what this is. If you have a home that has 3 stories worth of deck and stairs between each, from a safety perspective, you're gonna have to light some of that. So if you used up all 12 fixtures on the front of your home, you would have nothing left for the back. We abandoned that approach because it was gonna be fairly convoluted to write in, outdoor kitchen or task lighting. So the intent of the phone call on Thursday is to talk to Rick and say, here's where we are. We had something that was passed by ordinance. They have been very gracious in helping us address that. But now we've taken, quite frankly, the mayor's, whenever this comes to council, there's gonna be one section he's gonna go read, and it's this one. And now it is far more strict than what passed council the next time. So unfortunately, the removal of, hey, just turn your non-conforming lights, you don't have to retrofit, that is a nice give back, but it's not going to solve this problem. So the question we're going to ask Rick is, and we're gonna show him some of the homes in question. Here is a 7,500 square foot home with a 3-story deck and 8 doors on it. How is it ever gonna fit within this standard? Are we going to, correct? Are we going to be able to follow that dark sky path for those lights? Because we haven't seen, and nobody's brought it up that I've seen, is most of the dark sky ordinances are meant for your traditional kind of residential home in a city. Our houses out here are a little different. Now, Breckenridge adopted what they have, and they're not on the municipal code. So are we chasing the wrong thing is our other question, Rick. Are we starting out aiming for the strictest possible? And if we are, that may be a good thing from my perspective in the committee, but if we can't get around this section, it may never get to a vote. So that's the conversation we're gonna have with Rick is, if we go back to what council has already approved, 6 + 2 for every door, then we have a deal. But this section is now put us back. Yeah.
I'll point out too that in the feedback from Dark Skies, they said that we attempt to design nighttime illumination through individual source lumen limits and then the quantity of sources. This can be an extraordinarily inefficient way to illuminate certain spaces. In addition, this method may not allow one to meet national illumination standards, which goes back to the total lumen cap conversation, which I know was
Correct.
we can't do that no matter what, but we are essentially doing the same thing, just in a crappier way.
Right.
Well, what I think Rick did, and I was working with him almost day after day, is because I kept telling him, we can't measure lumens per acre, we can't measure candela at property lines. So he took an average home at 12,000 lumens and backwards calculated how many lights that would be. And so that's how he came up with his calculations for being acceptable. So what I've just handed out, and here's a copy for you, Jay. If we want to keep discussing this, or yeah, we have to, but anyway, the first part of our charter is our mission and purpose, first sentence being reform, promote, preserve, protect the natural night sky or Village of Angel Fire, proposing ordinance that will aid in minimizing light pollution, improve nighttime visibility, encourage efficient exterior lighting, conserve energy, help make our community a better place to live, work, and visit. And then long-term plans include special events, festivals, celebrations. Our job as assigned, or we wrote in our charter, was not, we will pursue dark sky international recognition. So we see that carrot out there and we are very, very close. But job is to do something that protects the night sky of Angel Fire. And we will certainly have a discussion with Rick. I think one thing you suggested was that largely, especially for larger cities, the biggest light polluters are your commercial entities, not
Correct.
residential. So is there a factor that Rick can come up with that he feels would be satisfactory with Dark Sky International, keep us in line for some kind of recognition by trading off and being more restrictive in the commercial, and then that gives us a little wiggle room in residential? Is that possible? So that's the discussion we hope to have with Rick on Thursday.
And to make that very real, one of the planning and zoning committee members asked a very question: why do we need this? And I talked to her a little bit, but one thing that's going to happen in the very near future is less than half the lights up and down North Angel Fire Bill Burgess work right now. They need to be replaced. What standard would you like me to replace them to? There is not one that the Village of Angel Fire currently has that exists. So the village is about to go through and retrofit far more visible lights than will exist on any individual residential property. So that's where we're kind of getting tripped up here, is if we go for an overly restrictive residential standard, it's not what drives most of the light pollution. Most of the light pollution is driven by commercial. So the question is gonna be of Rick, is there a way forward for us to do dark sky? Because this language that has right now is likely not gonna get there. So input from you guys as a committee, we're gonna have this talk with Rick, and if there's some horse trading to be done where he gives us back this residential the way that the mayor would like it, and we have to do something different on the commercial side, can we balance the scales that way or not? If we can't, that's okay, and I don't think there's gonna be any problem moving forward with a non-dark sky. It's just, it's the uniqueness of Angel Fire, and as you said, you have homes that look different here than other places. And there is some measurable standard for stairs and, you know, walkways and things like that. And if this overly restricts that down, it's gonna create a problem. So,
If we're okay with not being dark skies certified, like it seemed to me like that was a big, like that was the thing that the mayor cared about.
Okay.
And if it's not, then.
well, I think we would prefer to get there, but we don't want to finish on the 1 yard line here just because we can't make dark skies happy. And it may be that we pass something and that we have to work with dark sky on listen, I get where these standards are coming from, but dark sky needs some language on outdoor kitchens to really integrate with Angel Fire, or outdoor patio spaces, because those spaces require lighting. And there are standards on how much, lumens per square foot you're supposed to have in a kitchen, and that gets applied to indoor and outdoor kitchens. So it's not the dark sky. Correct.
Well, not if it's conforming. The new builds would have to be conforming,
And
zero up light and 2,700 kelvins.
in almost all cases, and in particular, all the homes the mayor built, these are all can lights. So by definition, they're down lights in a soffit somewhere. As long as they're the right color, then they would be conforming.
Here's another thing. A good thing about this is leaving the resort out of this. The only real part that is requiring any kind of, deal breaker look is those lights above these doors. If that's all there is, I can't imagine we can't work something out with dark skies.
So that's that conversation.
That conversation is gonna happen before we take another recommendation to planning and zoning.
Yeah.
So if we kind of have a consensus, not yet a vote, on how we are incorporating the resort wishes, and if we can have a consensus on what we can include based on the mayor's wishes, is that what we send to planning and zoning? So to me, and help me out, we either stick with what we know will satisfy Dark Sky International and let planning and zoning change it.
My recommendation here would be, and unfortunately, the timing of this is poor, right? We've gotten, now here we are reviewing resort requests, which I think you guys have done a great job on. And I'm coming to you with a complaint from the mayor, which is valid, because this is, in this one instance, far more restrictive than what council voted to move forward with. So it's a pretty substantive change. Your choices are wait and see what Rick comes back with, in which case that meeting is at 12 o'clock and Chairman Boyd's meeting over there is at 1 o'clock. So,
That one, didn't know that.
yeah, it did. It got changed.
Thank you.
So this is the challenge, is we're about to get some feedback from the gentleman at Dark Sky who can help answer this question for us. I don't know that you have a way to integrate what his suggestions are until you've heard them. So presenting it, if you're going to present it at planning and zoning, you either have to present something that's in front of you now that you can vote on. In theory, you could vote to have the alternate path of going back to the 6+2. But if you do that, it changes this entire section.
Right.
His lumen math doesn't work.
Right.
None of it works. So I don't really see a great way for you to present this at planning and zoning we were hoping to talk to Rick earlier this week, and that's the one time that he has available to talk to both Shelley and I. So unfortunately, it's not the answer that I want, but I'm open to suggestions here. If you guys see another way to do this,
Does council have another regular meeting, a second meeting in June?
we do. Yep.
So we have been, you know, again, because of our ambition to be Dark Sky recognized, we've been trying to fast track this. And if we don't have all of our ducks in a row by June 9th, is that their next meeting?
Correct.
Yes.
2 weeks later
Maybe
would be,
2 weeks later, we could ask planning and zoning for a special meeting. We could have another special meeting. And then I don't know if you want to do workshop or just at this, so that would be the 16th,
the 9th to be the,
14th, 3rd.
so
Looking at 14 and 9. Quick.
the 23rd.
23rd. How much advance notice would the council be comfortable with, since this is so different than what they saw in March?
Well, I mean, that's the hope is I would be comfortable taking this back to council with any changes that are less, they're reductions in severity. They're not gonna balk at that, right? It's this one that is an increase in severity that is the problem. So whatever we sort out from Rick, we'll have to go to planning and zoning because we don't have it yet, and then we'll have to go to council. The order of that depends entirely on how amenable Rick is. Because if Rick has an answer that's an easy fix, we come back and modify it. If Rick doesn't have an answer that's an easy fix, then this committee is looking at,
Choosing.
well, it is, I mean, you could choose to try to move forward with what's here.
Right.
I think what is a more palatable option is to take the wins that Rick gave you and take this residential section and turn it back a revision to the Breckenridge standard. If we do that, council's already approved that. And so we would in theory be taking something back to council that in all ways has gotten less strict.
Right.
Or
Yeah,
stayed the same.
Yeah.
If we reverted just that section and then y'all talked to Rick and he had an even better idea, could we still come to planning and zoning and say, look, we have this the way it is?
Stop, because we want to change it
Yeah,
again.
We have this that we're thinking about doing. We
Right.
don't necessarily want to move it forward, but just have that discussion before.
That would be, yeah, so that would be the only way I see for you to keep Thursday's planning and zoning meeting is to roll this section back one revision, vote to incorporate the resort changes, and whatever changes need to be made to section HBII, rolling it back, because then you would have something that the village has already reviewed and in all the meaningful ways has gotten less strict. Now, you would still potentially have the resort to come back later, but that's a battle for down the road. So that's the only way I see you passing something today that has a chance of going to planning and zoning. But please understand, if you do that, and then Rick has a better idea, or, you know, it may have to come back and say, hey, Rick, we're gonna pull it from the planning and zoning meeting because Rick gave us this great idea, and now you guys are gonna have to integrate Rick's new idea.
Okay. But could we still go to the planning and zoning committee and show what the great idea is, just to like, so y'all have an idea of what's coming?
We could, but understand, their committee is just like yours. They're being asked to vote on something, recommending it going to council.
God.
So showing them, right.
It's not a.
Correct. So showing them something that you don't want them to vote on, well, I'm sure they'd be happy to listen. It's not exactly the game we're playing
It
here,
sounds
right?
like it's not gonna get through council the way it is now anyway, so might as well roll it back and then hope for.
But there again, our mission is not to satisfy Dark Sky International. That's a carrot or a cherry on top or whatever.
We would love to have that.
And it
But-
has value to the village. If we get the rolled back version passed, then we still have time to negotiate with Dark Sky and amend this and still have some kind of recognition. Would that be reasonable, Faith?
Say that one more time for me,
That
please.
we can roll back that section about residential lighting, roll it back to the March 31st language.
Yep.
Ask planning and zoning their opinion, would they forward it to council for June 9th? And then if Rick does have a great idea, but council's already forwarded, because we still have to go through public notice, legal, blah, blah, blah.
Correct.
It's passed solid, and then we just come back and an amend with Rick's great idea, which would still give us some recognition. It may not be the first in the nation.
Correct.
Probably be first in New Mexico.
Correct. But understand, if Rick has a great idea, and I'm hoping that he does, and it changes something, then it makes Thursday's meeting moot, because you all have to vote on the Rick great idea.
My question, sorry to interrupt, is how much latitude does planning and zoning have to modify something that was recommended to them?
In theory, they could, because ultimately, all committees do is recommend
Right.
and council approves. It's a little funky in that we have one committee recommending to another committee, but that's just the way it's worked out here. Now, you would be placing a lot of trust in them, because if Jackie got squirrely, she could say, well, I'm gonna strike subsection 3 and recommend that along. So in theory, if I was the planning and zoning committee, I wouldn't want to tinker with all the work that this has been done unless it was like, oh, there's a typo on page 3, fix that, you know? So I would say, do what Mindy is suggesting. Vote on the resort changes, vote on the rollback of the revisions that won't get to a vote at council. Be ready to pass that on to planning and zoning on Thursday. But if Rick has a great idea, we may need to get with the chair and say, hey,
Take us off.
take us off this agenda item. Dark Skies come back with revisions we have to incorporate.
This is a living document, right?
Right.
So let's say 2, 3, 4 months from now, we decide to change the language because of some great idea. Is that possible?
It is, what I think is far more likely in this scenario is much like with our defensible space ordinance, where we had to pass an ordinance and now we're educating all of the landowners and public on how to be in compliance with that. We need to get something passed so that we can get on to the education and communication phase. And I think the timeline for modifying is probably more like years. Because my hope would be, let's say Rick doesn't have a great idea, but I think he's gonna understand our problem. We're gonna be able to show him a picture of a dozen homes with an 1,100 square foot outdoor kitchen dining room on it. And he's gonna go, oh, I see your technical problem. All that space needs lighting and it's all exterior lighting. So it may be that we have to work with Dark Sky to develop a standard that will fit us,
And fit
and fit them.
Stab ourselves in the back.
Yeah, so,
You know, if he comes up with something that's so great that everything's gonna work.
yeah.
And we've already passed this. Did we step on our own feet here?
Well, we think we're gonna know that before Thursday.
Yeah.
If you think I can, let Rick know our thoughts so that, since we only have an hour window, I didn't realize we only had an hour window. Then he can be thinking and prepared if he has time
Right,
ahead of our phone call, so that we're not spending our whole time explaining the problem.
For sure.
Explain it ahead of time to him.
Yep.
And say, this is what we need help with.
Correct.
He may be able to.
so there's 2 scenarios here. Rick gives us that carve out that, hey, we can go ahead and make Dark Sky this year. That would be great. If he can't, it's still worth talking to Rick, passing some type of outdoor lighting ordinance and continuing the conversation with him and the other gentlemen that are on the New Mexico Dark Sky to say, hey, folks, we would really love to be Dark Sky and we came up just short at our last effort after 2 years. And here's the technical reasons why. Do you have someone that can help us with this? And I imagine that process is going to take months, but what we don't want to do is just press pause on everything and wait months. We would rather pass a reduced, exterior lighting ordinance and aim at Dark Sky down the road if that's what it's going to take.
Do the can lights make a difference? You know, you said earlier that most of the Bears lights on patios and kitchens are can.
Yes,
See how they could.
meaning that they're down lights by nature.
They're down lights.
Right, so as long as they're down lights by nature, as long as they're the right Kelvin, and as long as they don't pass the 950 lumen per fixture, which is an easy number to hit, then those are conforming lights and can stay on all the time. So that doesn't trip over, hey, we have an Airbnb guest that rented a house and they left and they enjoyed the back patio, but you know what? They forgot to turn the lights off.
Yeah.
So those are shielded lights. Now, is it perfect? No, because on some of the mono-sloped roofs, you don't have a can light doing this, it's doing really more like this. But you can't win every battle. So, I would like to see something passed because right now we have nothing. And current record for submission on number of can lights is 60. So, and there's nothing to limit that right now.
Yeah.
So we're in every delay we have, there's just more of those type of homes being built. So I would be disappointed not to hit dark sky, but I would be way more disappointed not to pass anything.
Okay, so I asked Rick specifically about can lights, but I didn't copy his answer. I did, for my own purposes, cut and paste some of our communication. My question to him was, the village council liked the formula of 2 fixtures per entrance plus 6 others. The village manager said that now our reduced number may not be acceptable. And then I said, added acceptable lumen output of Angel Fire, something. So he understands, I understand the argument that it's easy to count fixtures. However, I've also heard that Angel Fire doesn't want to or doesn't have the staff to go outside and do code enforcement. That's a common theme. Even if they did, they wouldn't know if a fixture is compliant with 900 lumens or not. Dark Sky believes it's easiest to demonstrate compliance using a spreadsheet or lighting plan at the time of building permit. When you focus on lumens, you can use 300 lumens for landscape lights, 600 lumens for facade lights, and 950 maximum for sconce or recess lights.
Which is great, but
Right, it still
That-
has a hard.
well, and
cap
that's-
of 12.
that's an opinion. He's saying it should be this for landscape, it should be for this for kitchen. And now you've entered in the land of opinion, and that's hard to integrate that opinion into a black and white ordinance.
But I
here.
think what he's offering is suggestions that if you have, your total lumen is the 12,000, well, then have your pathway lights at 300 lumens and then your entry lights at 950, so that you still come up with a total of 12,000 lumens.
Correct, but if,
So the options thing.
but that 12,000 lumen is still at least 4,000 short of the last iteration that council
Yeah,
approved of this.
Capping it at 12 lights.
So it has come down substantially. And again, there's always gonna be that home,
Right.
it's up on Brazos, it's 5 acres, it's got 8 decks, it's got a half-mile long driveway and a 600-foot long staircase. Well, all that needs to be lit somehow, some way. So I think,
And there's allowance for variances that says for safety, blah, blah, blah. If for safety, you need your half-mile long driveway lit.
yep,
If for safety, you need all of these stairs lit, ask for a variance.
right. The problem is the builders are not gonna come up and wanna ask for a variance on every home they're building.
Right.
We're gonna have to have
No,
a
but I
standard.
mean, that exception that you were describing in, off of Brazos,
Yep.
that was the outlier.
Yep.
All these others that are the recent bills are within the original March 31st descriptions.
Yeah, and the 6+2 work for all of those. It does bring your lumen cap up there is no lumen cap. Because in theory, with the 6+2, if you want more lumens, put another door in. Put doors 7, 8, and 9 in, and you get 6 more lights. But that's the reality of what we're dealing with, is that situation is gameable, but it also scales up. This situation has a hard cap and doesn't scale up.
Could we do instead of the 6, not instead of, but in addition to the 6+2, could it be 6+2 or a total of the total number of lumens you get from the 6+2? Because I keep coming back to this, if you don't have that many doors, but you've got, I don't know, I guess it's an exception if it's a long path, but there's some places that you don't want 3 very bright lights, you want a whole bunch of very dim lights.
Right. You could, yes, I see what you're saying. So if somebody wanted to use the 6+2 to get 8 path lights,
Right.
because those 8 path lights would be a large number of lights, but as long as they're low lumen, you absolutely could, but it's not described here as far as,
I think there again, that could fall under variance.
But then we go into the, they don't want to get a variance.
My experience with variances,
Okay.
it sounds easy, but it's not.
well, and keep in mind, Jackie, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think since I've been in office, we're now exiting our 3rd planning and zoning director. So
Yeah.
the personnel required to push the paperwork for those variances, if your ordinance requires a lot of variances for an office that is emptied out about every 6 or 7 months, that's gonna be a problem.
What if it was just or one number?
Right.
Or 16,000 or 12,000. So like, if you can either use the standard with the 6 times 2, or you
Or-
can be under, or you can be under this lumen cap.
Correct.
That be,
regardless of the size, the number. of
You could, yeah, you could absolutely do that, but I would be careful not to make that number too low.
No,
okay,
yeah.
well, 16,000 is what we were looking at before, right?
It was, yeah.
Does that sound okay?
I don't have the revision in front of me, but it was 16.5 was the,
I don't remember.
Because then
that
some
figure.
people,
So
some
long
people
ago.
might have like more doors.
Well,
In our driveway.
the person you're describing would be a home like mine. I only have 3 exterior doors,
Right.
but if I want to put lighting down around my porch or down my driveway, I can still do that because I'm under the total cap.
Yeah, that's our situation as
Yeah.
well. We've only got 3 doors. We've got a big old deck and we've been trying to figure out like, how are we gonna do this with this now?
Right.
When we could have, you know, bunch of little bitty 20 lumen lights up there.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what do you think would be a good number?
Well, the 16,000, if my memory is right, was one of the zones we got from Los Alamos. Los Alamos had several well-defined lighting zones, and I think 16.5 was their residential limit, which is not a crazy number, but Los Alamos is not Angel Fire, right? Their homes, there's a bunch of old army barracks that people live in Los Alamos. The homes look different there than they do here. So unfortunately, you would be kind of arbitrarily picking a number based on what we've read other places. But for new builds, I think the 6+2 is the big feature here. I'm totally in agreement with Mindy that something in that 18,000 range would be reasonable. What Rick is gonna have to say about that when we talk to him on Thursday, I don't know.
Well, can I move to add it in as an or, keep, still roll back to the language that we had and then add in or 16,000 total lumen cap? And take your pick. That sound okay?
Did the mayor give you a number?
No, so the mayor is, I don't wanna say ignoring lumen caps, but his whole standard is the 6+2. Because we went through, I don't know, a half dozen of his most recent builds and 6+2 with the 950 per fixture cap worked for every single one. So we went, okay, great, this is good. Now, I don't think he's currently using 2,700 Kelvin bulbs in all of those, but that's a minor fix, right? I still design the lights the same way. I still buy the lighting packages the same way, but I just have to pick this one, not that one.
On the outdoor kitchens with the slopes, doesn't most of that light go against the house anyway?
Well, it depends. So in the can light, you have some adjustment up there to where you can aim it. So in general, what he and many of the other builders do is they find the slope of the roof, and then depending upon how up and down the roof is, you're either angling it towards or back, or in general, right down over the grill, the table, the chairs. That's what those lights are being used for. And so you have that adjustment in soffit lights.
There is okay, so yeah, you'll have to come up with your words
Mhm.
for BIHB, the line.
Let's just roll back to version 1 and copy it.
Okay, well, so this starts with the total outdoor lumens shall not exceed 2.5 lumens per square foot of dwelling area. Is that?
Well,
What are we talking about there?
it does, but then it goes on to say,
Yeah, but I mean.
never exceeding.
In general, so if we take off the never exceeding thing, never exceeding 16,000 lumens,
Now, 2.5 times
but like what's in the square?
6,000 square feet is 15,000 lumens. Okay,
So
so
16 was.
16.5 is right in there.
So if we change the word never exceeding 16,000 lumens per, do we say dwelling or property? Because if they want to use their lumens on a,
Well, I guess, but you guys are doing different things. Mindy is trying to use lumens as an or. And you're still trying to keep it as a never exceed. If you keep it in there as a never exceed, you break the 6+2 math again. Because in theory, a home with 10,000 square feet and 12 doors is going to exceed 16,000 lumens. That's why dark sky, I think, doesn't like it.
So if we follow the order of the sentences we have now, 2.5 lumens per square foot of dwelling area. That's reasonable for, one of the, you said that
I think we're
on the
getting,
7,000.
we're getting rid of that entirely.
Yeah, you just want to roll this section back.
That whole section is.
Because if you try to take little bits and pieces out of that section and roll it back into the other, you're gonna,
Mhm. Okay, so go back to
And the
March.
word of same has got to go.
Yeah.
It's just the 6+2 that we had before.
And then we put in or a maximum of 16,000 lumens per acre. Per
residents.
per property.
For property, yeah. This is for residential, right?
Yes.
Yeah, for residential property.
And then
If you can put this in a more positive language, there's too many knots
yep,
and nevers,
right.
which everybody automatically
Right.
knows.
And so, yeah, if we scratch that entire paragraph, put back March 31st, add a sub something, or a maximum of 16,000 lumens per property, that might even satisfy, no, not a maximum. Yes, it is. That might satisfy Dark Sky International to have a 16,000 cap.
it may, but now if you have the cap, then again, the 6+2 math. The 6+2 math and the cap will not go together.
It's just to give people more options.
Well, because
They can like their
That
house,
was what, it's an expensive way to do it. If you want to add 2 more exterior lights to your home, you have to add another door into the plan somewhere. Because again, keep in mind, all we're talking about, this section only applies to new builds.
So it wouldn't
Right.
be a max of 16,000 is if you can choose 6+2 for your doors, or you can choose 16,000. So like if I only have 2 doors, I can choose the 16,000.
Correct. So you need that to be a,
An option.
I would say whichever is greater. That's the way you say it. You say 6+2 or 16,000, whichever is greater. So in Mindy's case, or my case, 3 doors, well, I would never be allowed. So let's do some quick math on that. We'll do your house and my house. So 3 doors, so that's 6 lights, plus the original 6 is 12. 12 times 950 would only be 11,400 lumens that you and I can have on our property. So that 16,000 is raising that cap up.
And it's limiting where you can, like, what you can light up with the appropriate light.
Right, it still then has to be conforming lights, you know, per the rest of it. So yes, do it that way. 6+, roll that provision back to 6+2 and that in an or 16,000 total lumens, whichever is greater.
That allows the scale up.
Yes,
Okay.
Correct.
I think
And you
that's a
don't
good
have the
idea.
knots and nevers.
Yes.
correct.
So for
Yeah.
specifically you and Jake, you are,
Checking that.
existing non.
This is actually.
So you can
Right,
leave
but
what
if we
you
wanna
want, but if you
add
want
lighting,
to
if
add.
we wanna add lighting to our house
Right.
for our path, like our
For new
path
lights,
lighting out.
exactly.
One of the big-
But we don't have enough doors to.
Like,
Correct.
enough lights that you want.
Yeah.
It also would encourage, it's an easier thing if somebody's gonna build very, you know, let's say that they're more entry-level homes. 12, 13, 1,400 square foot homes that are gonna have a minimal number of doors. It still gives them a much larger lumen cap for decks and path lighting and everything else.
And doesn't, it's the number of fixtures that's getting me, cause like,
Cause you want the little,
yeah, I want,
Play with lights.
Yeah.
I don't even wanna go up to the cap, I just want more lights.
okay.
Once again, whether it be 16,000 scaling up, scaling down, all of that. Are we still requiring, is it conforming or non-conforming lighting? And are we still requiring them to shut them off after 10?
Only if they're non.
Only if they're
They're
non-conforming.
existing, non-conforming, like my house, Deb's house, we exist. We have non-conforming lights. We can retrofit them if we want, or we can turn them off.
Got
Our
it.
choice.
Okay.
And existing or new conforming lights don't have a curfew.
Right.
I can't see anybody, that pleases everybody.
Right, so like, like for Deb, she converted hers to compliant lights. So good, I don't want to convert mine, I have to shut them off. So that, I think that was a big caveat that Rick did provide. So,
If he may,
Why can we not say that,
All right, we'll see. All right.
is
out of, instead of this, I'm trying to get rid of the not
is
just
there another?
thing, just say, it's, you're allowed 2.5 lumens per square foot of the dwelling area. Just put it in a positive,
I
what
think,
you're allowed to do as opposed to what you're not.
I think the reason to do that is most builders don't talk in lumens, they talk in how many fixtures are you having. I think your idea is great after folks have gotten used to, okay, here's my regular build, here's what I do, okay, 700 Kelvin, oh, look, here's the total calculation of lumens. That's not something home builders are doing up here right now, because they're not made to. So by doing that, you could, but keep in mind that that number is gonna be less than. So a 2.5 lumens per square foot times a 6,000 square foot house is still only 15,000 lumens, which is below the 16,000 cap. So this 2.5, that number came from Rick. That is a dark sky ask. That's where they want it to be. And that's what's giving us the trouble is we have lighting requirements on the outside of the home and all of those outdoor eating areas. So that number would likely be too low if we were using it purely for the calculation, is my guess.
Also, the smaller homes then, like if you have a 1,200 square foot home, they don't have enough lighting for their path or whatever, so they can go with the max,
Right.
16 or greater. So they would get the 16 like smaller home. The other thing that we would have to do is under plan submission. Shall submit a lighting plan or spreadsheet and apply for compliance review. Does that get changed?
You would still have to do that. You would still,
The spreadsheet was, fixtures times lumens or square foot times.
so in this case, because you've done whichever is greater, you would have two paths for compliance. You could count up all of the fixtures. You're gonna have to do that either way, but you're gonna count up the fixtures, look where they're located, what the lumens are, and have a total lumen at the bottom and a total fixture count at the bottom.
So the word spreadsheet's fine.
Or spreadsheet is just fine.
Okay.
Because Mindy's spreadsheet, when she builds her new home that has 3 doors on it, she's only gonna have X number of fixtures attached to the house, but then she's gonna have 18 low lumen fixtures out on everything else. Those all get captured somewhere somehow.
Yeah, that was where in Rick's, our back and forth conversation was, he said, oh, and I added the word spreadsheet, so it's easy for plan review.
Correct.
Is what he's doing.
The other way to do that, depending upon what builder you're going with, they all have an exterior lighting sheet that goes to the state. It's on the electrical plan, but somewhere on there, there's usually a table that says these number of lights per lumen times, and here's the total.
So what are we thinking?
I think, do you want me to run through all of the changes we made and we can vote on them?
sounds good.
Are we ready?
I move to review all of the changes that we're making and then we vote on it.
Okay.
Okay. So we are incorporating the red resort suggestions, so that what's read in the document. We will fix various typos if needed. We are adding back in the exemption for night skiing. We are rolling back big H, little b, little II to the March 31st version, which is the 6 lights plus 2. And adding in an or with the 16,000 K lumen cap,
Whichever is greater.
whichever is greater.
Mhm.
I think maybe, should we say whichever is more appropriate? Because there might be
That's
some.
subjective,
Has
so-
no-
Yeah.
It's too.
Greater is much clearer than appropriate.
Sure, but what if someone has a big house and they want a lot of little lights instead of,
It's their prerogative.
Then they
It's their prerogative.
sacrifice lights around the house and put them on their roof.
Correct.
But then they're going with the lower limit, not the.
No, they would be instead of putting, because the way people are functionally gonna game this, instead of putting 2 lights at every additional door they add, they're gonna put 1 light on every additional door and then put that other light somewhere else.
Okay,
So they've netted 2 lights they can use. They don't have to use them at the door.
okay, so whichever is greater. And I believe that is it.
Oh, yeah, this isn't part of, because I don't think that was a formal motion, but just a side note that we haven't discussed. And I think it needs to be in the side by side comparison. When we started talking about high density dwellings, the condos, Rick actually loosened that up. We had a like one light per door plus one other. And he came back with 4 fixtures per dwelling and an allowance of 1 fixture per dwelling for common spaces, 20 fixtures. So he added a lot for common spaces if some of these condos ever have their own pickleball court or a community house. So there's a lot of easing in the condo area that we haven't been emphasizing that has also eased.
That's true, but the section that Mindy is modifying is the single family
Right.
residential.
Actually, this
so-
was totally outside.
Yep.
That we need to also emphasize, since we're emphasizing that this all new stuff since March 31st is easing the restrictions.
Yep.
So is there a real motion?
I move to accept the changes that we just discussed.
I second it.
All in favor? Oh,
I,
sorry. Can we say that then with the changes we're moving will be what we present to planning and zoning?
Yep.
Okay. Was that your intent?
Mhm.
Okay.
I didn't know I could do it all in motion.
Why not? So all in favor of modifying for the comments to the resort and then rolling back the residential, adding a 60,000 lumen per property, whichever's greater. And that be presented to planning and zoning on Thursday. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? And then if we hear fantastic stuff from Rick, this may work. I mean, if we say,
We're hoping,
Yeah.
fingers crossed, if, the call with Rick is at 1, no, I'm sorry, is it noon?
correct,
We're at noon, so, your meeting is at 1.
we're one.
Yes, so Shelley will let everyone know, on this committee, and then I will be at the P and Z meeting regardless, because I liaise with that committee. So if we need to remove that as an agenda item, I will do that. You won't have to be there for it. If we're gonna proceed forward with what was just voted on today, we'll go ahead and present that P and Z. And then we'll see what Rick has to say. I think it's this plan that was just voted on has a very good chance of moving forward. And we'll see if Rick has any better ideas that we haven't thought of yet.
And like I said, our objective is to get something to mitigate light pollution in Angel Fire.
Correct.
Dark sky recognition is a cherry on the top, and we don't have to forego it. We would just pursue it later.
Correct.
Oh, any other new business, old business, anything like that?
That was your last agenda item.
Okay, so if there's no other questions, comments at 5:22, the meeting's adjourned. Thank you very much.
Well deserved.